Welcome into the Cowboys Report. I am Tom Downey. The NFL trade deadline is just days away. The trade rumors abound, and I know many of you still want the Cowboys to be aggressive. So of these biggest needs, which do you think is the biggest overall? You can type in 1 for wide receiver. That's my vote. 2 for offensive line. 3 for linebacker. 4 for corner. If it's not one of those 4, you could even go ownership if you want. Comment other will really let me know which one you think it is in the comment section right now. Once again, this is the Dallas Cowboys Report by Chat Sports. Lots of action around the NFL. Robert Quinn and Kadarius Toney. Cowboys got into with Johnathan Hankins. We're going to go position by position here, beginning with wide receiver. Some areas of concern right now for Dallas. CeeDee Lamb has been a nice football player for the Cowboys. Michael Gallup has not been the same guy since that ACL. Hopefully he gets going in the next couple of games, whatnot. Noah Brown is a bit banged up, but he was awful in the first half against the Lions and kind of redeemed himself later on. Jalen Tolbert cannot get on the football field. Fehoko, Washington still on IR. As many of us have said, since the preseason and the offseason, hey, receivers in need. There's a lot of different guys who have been linked to different trade rumors out there. We've talked about Elijah Moore, Brandin Cooks, Jerry Jeudy on recent videos. I'm not going to go that far in depth today on those guys because we did that on yesterday's trade rumors videos. Cooks, Moore, or trade rumor video, I should say. Cooks, Moore, and Jeudy leading the conversation there. I'm not going to go too far in depth. You can check that out. Make sure you guys are subscribed. Daily videos here on the Cowboys Report. So make sure you guys don't miss out by hitting that big red button and subscribing. I will go briefly on Jerry Jeudy because I think he's more obtainable than a lot of the receivers who have been linked out there. I would love to find a way to get him. I have to see it before I fully believe that the Cowboys would make an offer for Jerry Jeudy, despite what I may or may not be hearing. I would love Jerry Jeudy. I'm wearing orange, speaking into existence today. I would like to get Jeudy on this team, get him for a third-round pick or so. Maybe it ends up being a second or something more, a third more, because I think other teams should have interest. Not that productive so far, but I would have interest in Jeudy, I promise you. Some other wide receiver trade targets who have been linked out there, right? Chase Claypool, KJ Hamler, and DJ Moore, always linked. That's the dream candidate for everyone out there. We'll go more in depth on those 3 guys here in a moment and spend some more time on them since we didn't spend that time yesterday. But do you think the Cowboys will trade for a wide receiver? If the ad break comes here on YouTube, you can head down there and comment Y for yes and for no in the comments. Take advantage of it. Let the ad play. Go comment on that one and the question I asked you off the top in today's video about what's the biggest need for the Cowboys. Let's begin with DJ Moore, the gem, if you will, of the trade deadline. I still do not believe he's going to be dealt. He's very talented receiver, 3,000-yard seasons already under his belt. He's 25 years old, and he just signed a massive extension this offseason. That is not the type of player that you typically see moved, even for a rebuilding team. DJ Moore, when the rebuild is over, is still a huge part of that team. He's still young, so call, sure, that's fine. I would be shocked if Carolina didn't settle for anything less than significantly more than the A.J. Brown trade. He's too good, and they just paid him. Had they not paid him, different conversation. But I'm not going to get my hopes up there. On the flip side of Jerry Jeudy is his teammate KJ Hamler, who has been undersized, dynamic receiver at points. He was productive at Penn State. Again, undersized, but speedy, fast, athletic. But he hasn't been that good in the NFL, and I think Denver will definitely shop in. The Broncos, especially if they lose against the Jags, are very much open for business right now. Chase Claypool, meanwhile, if you believe the reports out of Pittsburgh, they want a Christian McCaffrey-esque package for Claypool, which I think is ludicrous. I like Chase Claypool. Would bring you size, speed combo you don't really have right now on this roster. But I am not moving a second, a third, and a fourth for Claypool. You can talk me into maybe a third. But all of that, no. So again, smart teams call, and they figure out what the asking prices are. Let's move to cornerback. I will say I've been disappointed by Anthony Brown so far this year. But with Jordan Lewis injured, 2 names have suddenly popped up. We're going to begin with William Jackson III, the Washington Commanders cornerback. Now, Jordan Schultz has mentioned Jackson as a potential fit for the Dallas Cowboys. He even specified due to the loss of Jordan Lewis. Jackson's been okay this year. He's allowed a lot higher percentages than what you want. He wants to play more man, if you believe the NFL Network release. Dan Quinn does play some man. There's also plenty of zone there. It's interesting from that standpoint in terms of where things sit with William Jackson. Greedy Williams, I will just show you his stats too here. Greedy Williams is available via trade, according to a couple of different reports out of Cleveland. And this is a name we all know, right? LSU product. I know many Cowboys fans from our draft shows and videos who have been subscribed for a long time. They had interest in Greedy Williams. He's been bad this year. That's why we're putting up his 2021 coverage stat. He hasn't played that much this year either. Here's the problem you run into. Greedy Williams and William Jackson are both outside corners. So you would have to move Anthony Brown to nickel. That's fine, but I think you're okay at outside corner if you have any faith whatsoever in Kelvin Joseph. Maybe you don't. You still go 5 deep with starters and Diggs and Brown, and I was impressed by Bland in the preseason. I think many of us were. And you have top 100 picks in Joseph and Wright. I'd have some interest. I think you'd have to win the deal like the Cowboys always like to do from that standpoint. Now, today's show is made possible by BetUS. Head over to chatsports.com/bet. Promo code Cowboys125. $100 down. They're going to give you an extra $125 for free. Chatsports.com/bet. Promo code Cowboys125. Bet on Dallas to beat the Bears. Our Bears fans here at Chat Sports are talking me into, well, this could be just like the Denver game. Okay. I mean, the Denver game caught you off guard because you weren't ready for it, so I guess that's fair. But you should beat the Bears. Offensive line sucks. Your defense should dominate them. I'm putting my money on the Cowboys to cover this week, and you can too with BetUS. Chatsports.com/bet. Promo code Cowboys125. Let's move to the offensive line, as this, I think, is an underrated area for the Cowboys from a depth perspective. The higher level impact, what are you going to do, right? Are you going to find the new center or left guard? That's where you'd be looking to make some changes. But if you get Tyron Smith back, then do you want to have a left guard? Because you could put the Smiths on the left side when they're healthy. You do want to start Jason Peters. But your depth is thin. You're down to Jason Peters and Josh Ball as your backups on the offensive line for at least a few weeks, with Matt Farniok now on IR. So 5 names, differing levels of cost and role and everything you can at least consider here. Matt Hennessy, the center. Drew Dahlman's beating him out in Atlanta. I don't know if Hennessy's better than Biotish, but he would give you a backup at center, which you don't have right now, outside of Alec Lindstrom on the practice squad and Dakota Shepley. So can you get him for a day 3 pick? If so, I'd have interest. Isaiah Wynn could play all over the line for you, but he hasn't been that good this year, and he kind of fell out of the Patriots' doghouse. And also, typically trading with Bill Belichick doesn't go very well. Cowboys legend Cam Irving could be a fit if you want another backup tackle, but might be okay there since Peters can play tackle. Andre Dillard is a left tackle starter only as far as I'm concerned. The big dark horse name who's a good football player is Dalton Reisner. He'd be a rental, or you pay him in free agency. He's going to be, I believe, free agent after this year. He'd be your left guard. He's awesome at football. I would have a lot of interest there, but I think he'd be a bit expensive. There's also this element, and this I can already see the Cowboys going, we're fine at offensive line. We're going to get Tyron Smith back, because they did that stuff last year too when they didn't make a trade deadline move, right? The Cowboys swear Tyron Smith will be back this year for what could be his last hurrah as the Dallas Cowboys left tackle or offensive lineman in general. I am unconvinced, though, if we'll actually end up seeing Tyron Smith make his return before even like December at the absolute earliest. I'd have interest. I would like to get him back because worst case I've got extra depth, but it's also an unknown if he can even stay healthy, right? You cannot bank on him in the same way I think the Cowboys might try to. What week do you think Tyron Smith will end up returning? It's going to be in the back half of the year. Not that we're that far away from it, but make those predictions right now in the comments. You added a defensive tackle, so you're probably not going to go get a big-time splash player as much as I'd like one. But You could try to get a linebacker, the other potential area of interest on your defense there, where I think LVE's been solid, but I've been underwhelmed by Anthony Barr. How about a Roquan Smith trade? Of course, the big-name linebacker who we'll see in depth and in person on Sunday. He's been awesome this year. But the Bears are sellers. They already moved on from Robert Quinn. And Roquan Smith is having a fantastic year. The tackle numbers are already off the charts so far this year. He's been everywhere. TFL, sacks, interceptions. Roquan Smith is balling. The issue is, I think you'd have to move at least a third-round pick for him. And you've got young players this team does like. You've spent draft capital on Jabril Cox, who is not playing because I don't think he's a good run stopper, and you're fine in coverage there, so you're not too concerned. Damone Clark is now back on the active roster, way ahead of what I had thought he was going to be, thankfully. Leighton Vander Esch has played well. Devin Harper was a draft pick, although he's got an Achilles bothering him, and I could see him being just a, if you need to, we're going to IR stash him rest of the year move, but you don't want to risk him to waivers. So we'll see about linebacker. Roquan's the big one. Finally, non-trade rumor, Odell Beckham. Michael Irvin says he knows Odell Beckham would be interested in the Cowboys, and Mike is right, which, I don't think is that big of a surprise there. I've got some thoughts on OBJ. We've talked a lot about him here. He's fit. He's not going to be ready until December, blah, blah, blah. But which would you do at wide receiver? S for go sign OBJ, knowing his impact is probably at least a month away, or T for trade for someone before Tuesday's trade deadline? Drop your answer for me in the comments. I'm calling Odell Beckham right now on tour. He's taken his visits. He's been flirting with players publicly on social media. Odell Beckham, and I understand it, he wants to feel the love, right? He wants to feel like he's important. He wants to be romanced. He wants to be, I don't think coddle's the right word, but he wants to be swooned over. He wants to be a big factor as like, I'm getting, look at all these players and coaches telling me how important I am, how impactful I could be to their team. I get that. It's part of free agency, right? That's a date in the end, right? Isn't Jerry Jones perfect to deliver that? Isn't he the perfect one to fly down on the helicopter and be like, Odell, don't you want to have that star on your helmet? Don't you want to help us be the team to finally deliver a title to Dallas for the first time in years? I think that is something Odell Beckham could be convinced by. If there is no trade deadline deal for the Cowboys at wide receiver, and the other guys don't suddenly up their level of play beyond what we've been expecting and seen so far, I think Odell Beckham is a very prime candidate for the Cowboys later on in NFL free agency.